politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
What you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you. Thank you again for joining us here on Global Television. We are live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. This is Global Morning. It's a great Thursday, no doubt about that. It's 2 days after the speech by the president, which has become so much of talking points in several quarters, whether in the media, civil society space, even, I mean, within the general public. Everybody's talking about that speech. Everybody is highlighting what the speech means to them. But before we get right into all of that, full throttle, hope you had a great night and you're woken up into a very promising Thursday, and hopefully you make the most of it as well, given that we believe that you have plans for today that you want to accomplish for yourself and those you care about. And by doing so, you will also change society at least one step from where it has been. I am Uyi Agumofwebe. It's a delight to welcome you to the program. Queen Agaba is also on Global Morning this morning, and we are co-hosting. Incidentally, this is the first time in a long time.
In a very long time. Good morning, Uyi.
Good morning, good to see you.
Thank you.
It's good to know that election took you to Edo for a while. Yes, even though you didn't stay through like Anthony Momodu, who was there from the beginning to the end. But then, Edo election has also become a very topical issue in the mouth of many people. All right, now there are those who are now saying that that election is another opportunity for INEC and indeed Nigeria to take a second look at our electoral process. Of course, the election had not been conducted when you returned to Abuja, but we do understand that that election is a game changer of some kind, depending on what sense in which you're looking at it and all of that. And then, of course, that has also now given rise to talk about local government elections that have been conducted across the country today. Well, since states like Anambra, I mean, that's the most recent we just saw, was conducted last weekend. We're seeing Enugu, we're seeing Imo. Of course, Benue has its own upper head. Ogun State also does. A few other states here and there. But again, it's a potpourri of elections, you know, across the country. And then there is the president's speech. I'm sure you caught a bit of the president's speech. I watched from start to end. There are people now saying that that speech, marking the 64th independence of the country, brought its own highs and lows. There's those who also say it was flat out low. Some say, well, what do you expect the president to say? What more, what extra were you really expecting from him? The man has said that you are being heard. The man has said that he understands. I mean, that's where he even opened the speech from. The challenges that Nigerians are dealing with, and as such, he's not ignorant of all of these issues. He also talked about initiatives that are already being taken by this administration under his leadership. And then he mentioned as well several more that will come up. But we'll take us some time to also talk about the youth confab that the president talked about. I mean, you are a youth. I'm not so sure if I'm still a youth now, because definition has been a problem in this country for a while.
Since we say we're operating a youth-centric government,
right.
But most of the people that we see, I want to ask you, since you said that has been misconstrued recently, what is your definition of a youth? Having to see that, if this administration is supposed to be youth-centric, and the people we have been seeing with in leadership, even down to presidents, governors, are even older than Nigeria, what then is the definition of a youth? I think that's where we should start from. We should begin
see, that in itself, Queen, has been a very controversial issue. Like they say in academic research, the problem of definition. I guess that's what we're dealing with here, with regards to how you establish the brackets of who is a youth. Growing up, I heard, I mean, people will say when you're 16 all the way to 30, you were a youth. Later, definitions started changing. Political elements coming in, politicians defining who a youth is, depending on their interest and what ambition they were pursuing per time. And then you now have a school of thought that says you are a youth if you're between 18 and 50. So if you're 50 and downwards, you're a youth. So I'm asking myself, much as everybody would not look the same, have the same physique, the same face, body structure, what have you, at the age of 50, can we look at an average 50-year-old Nigerian today and say this person is a youth? And then we narrow that down to the president's cabinet, for example. Let's look at his ministers. Let's look at other key aides that he has engaged across different sectors. How many of them can you categorically, regardless of what definition you're using, to say this person are all youth? Of course, people will argue that minister of, both the two ministers in the Ministry of Youth, for example, are youth. All right, you talk about Dr. Bio, talk about the junior minister in the ministry, that they are both youth. That argument will be valid. Somebody can also look at a gentleman like Dr. Bosun Tijani, digital economy, for example, and say, well, he's a youth. Of course, you're also looking at where he's coming from, the tech space, and what have you. When you move away from these three persons, who else would you say is a youth? Some persons will even argue and say, Minister of Aviation is a youth. Talking about senior lawyer, Festus Keyamo. Another person will say, Dr. Olubunmi Tuji-Ojo, Minister of Interior, is also a youth. But the question is, can we spend 3 hours of global morning finding a definition for who a youth is? This conversation is long drawn out.
It's well, I don't even think that the 50 mark is quite a good definition or a good mark for youth.
So you think if you're 50, you can be a youth again? You're beginning to get close to becoming a senior citizen.
You're a senior citizen already. So I think that maybe from 18 or 16 down to 35, you should be considered a youth. But once you leave, you move away from 35 to your 40s, and but you know where we are, where we found ourselves.
And then I also think, Queen, by the way, that the conversation around being a Gen Z and all of the Gen Z factors are not even blurring that element of who a youth is. I think people really don't give as much attention to it anymore now as they did a few decades ago, because now you're talking about Gen Zs, and you also have Gen X coming behind Gen Zs. Nobody's even talking about millennials anymore. All right, so I think all of this evolution is beginning to blur that line between who is a youth and who isn't. In the middle of that, just to add to it, you now have the Gen Z baddies as well. So who really cares who's a youth or not? People just feel, well, do your thing, live your life, pursue your dream, regardless of your age, do whatever it is you want to do. So I think, also, I was speaking with a gentleman yesterday who told me that he bagged his PhD at the age of 27. All right, that's quite remarkable, because I know somebody very close to me who bagged his PhD at the age of 51 just a couple of months ago. All right, I have seen people who bag PhDs in their mid-60s, which means that some persons can look at all of these different categories of people and say, well, the important thing is that they accomplished their academic pursuits, ultimately, regardless of at what age, that accomplishment came through. So some people also argue on that basis. They say, whatever your age may be, being a youth is a thing of the mind, much more than is a factor of age.
I think so too, but age also plays a major factor. We can't take away the fact that we're talking about age now, we're talking about mind and age right now. You might be a youth at mind, quite frankly, or you might be in love with, youthful things, youthful and all of that. We've had older people who still have that youthful exuberance in them.
Still run around.
Yes, who still run around. But when we want to talk about age plays a major factor, because if I take a 64-year-old man right now, put him in a field, same field, with someone who is 20 or 25, I bet you know what would happen in that field.
Won't that be too unfair for you?
So that's why I'm saying that age also plays a major factor. We're talking about strength, youthful strength as well. And also your mind, yes, the vigor, your mind as well. There's something that comes with being young and vibrant that, these people have literally spent their youth as well. So you don't have that vibrancy, you don't have that action, you don't even have that intuition for what is in vogue, what is trending, what is, So we can't take away the fact that age plays in.
So we have to literally beg you to understand what TikTok is.
Yeah, what TikTok is, what certain trends are, give me my money and all of those trends, and then you're like, okay, what's happening here? What's going on here?
It reminds me of when a certain Dr. Joaba came on Twitter, as it then was, so I think 2 or 3 years ago, and he was asking, he said, please, what does it mean when people say he's a thing? You know, it was a trend one time, so people would say he's a thing. So he was wondering, what does it mean? Because there was this, obviously so, gap already between him and the young people who were advancing that trend at the time. So you're quite right, Queen. The older we get, the further we become from trends, quite frankly. You look at the phone of an average 50, 55, 60-year-old person, for example. What are the typical apps they have there versus somebody who is maybe between 17 and 21? Of course, the gulf is exactly quite wide and all of that. So let's take a quick break now, everyone, just to let you know that we have a big conversation in front of us. Of course, in addition to that, we'll be talking about local government election in this country, how that the system appears to be, if you like, warped in certain direction. We'll also take time to bring you big headlines from across our national dailies this morning. And then, of course, at top of the hour, 8 o'clock, will be time for us to bring you the global AM news. In the meantime, when we return, we'll take a look at our national dailies and keep you informed and put you ahead of the news.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Thank you everyone for staying with us here on Global Morning. Time to turn to the papers quickly for you. Turns out we are beginning with the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Let's start with stories just immediately beneath the nameplate here. One here says Tinubu approves deployment of electric vehicles by NEDC, that is the Northeast Development Commission. Business, FG's DARES, which it calls DARES, to attract $90 billion World Bank AFDB power project facility. That's a whole lot of funding for power projects there. In sports, AFCON 2025 qualifiers, Osimhen doubtful for Libya double header. 64th Independence, Reps reject CFR national honor on Tajuddin Abbas, with the rider that says demand Akpabio CJN Kekere Ekun's GCON status for speaker. Of course, the argument by the members of the House of Representatives is that the House of Representatives is not inferior to the Senate, and as such, if you're conferring the honor of GCON, that Grand Commander of the Niger, on the President of the Senate, which is Mr. Gospel Akpabio in this instant case, the same should be extended to the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Hopefully, this doesn't become a bone of contention, because before now, there had been even the argument just a few days ago that the President ought not have even mentioned the honors item while he was broadcasting, delivering his broadcast on that day. But now that he has done it, we can't take it back, we can't do a reversal. But hopefully this does not also now become a fight between the the Senate and the House of Representatives, because this is not the first time the title of CFR will be conferred on the Speaker of the House of Representatives. But it will appear that this 10th House has a different standpoint altogether. Absolutely. So they're saying if you're conferring GCON on the President of the Senate, please by all means do the same for our Honorable Speaker. Absolutely. Goose for the goose, good for the gander, they say. All right, but let's see a few more headlines for you quickly from the Blueprints. Terrorists slaughter 6 farmers, abduct 5 others in Borno. The writer tells us Undume seeks urgent intervention, and by the way, is asking that President Tinubu should engage the services of military contractors to flush out Boko Haram from the north. Malud Nabi, boat ferrying 300 capsizes in Niger, 16 bodies recovered. Quite a sad story that broke about 2 days ago. 169 Kwara passengers missing, locals reports. Divers intensify rescue operation, Governor Abdul Razak mourns. And then at the foot of the paper here, we have 3 more headlines. One says 6 months after Edo Assembly recalls members, police arrest 13 over illegal mining. LG commences distribution of 2,000 CNG powered buses. Those are all headlines coming from the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Quickly, let's turn to other papers for you, and this time Queen will be taking us through the very next one, and that will be the Daily Independent.
The Daily Independent for you. On the front page of the Daily Independent, we have big story there says federal government removes VAT on diesel, cooking gas as well to crash prices. Rather says Gazette's regulation on withholding tax begins implementation January 1st. Headsmen kill 2 soldiers, 6 others, and cut away arms. Protesters occupy Ondo INEC office, wants wreck removed. Tinubu jets out to UK on annual leave. Israel bans UN Secretary General Guterres from entering country. Leave now. Federal government advises Nigerians in Lebanon. APC vows to oppose Rivers October 5 local government election. Bamidele denies working against Yoruba interests on page 7 of the Daily Independent. We have Emirates in talks with Nigerian Airlines for code share agreement. And under the big picture there, we have reps reject CFR national honor conferred on Speaker Abbas. Demand same GCON award conferred on Akpabio. Okay. Send committee to presidency before conferment ceremony. Fault lower chamber tag, claims equality with Senate. Lastly, underneath the name tag, we have Mogalu, former APC chieftain, joins Labour Party. But let's look at the stories above the nameplate. Article 6, rotational presidency and strengthening of electoral laws. And we now have local government poll. Governor Fubara declares October 3rd and 4th public holidays, and restricts movements from midnight Friday to 5 p.m. on Saturday. These are the stories we have, interesting stories to react to right here. One of which, of course, I do not like sad stories about our military personnel and soldiers being hijacked or ambushed, and it's particularly by headsmen, bandits, kidnappers, and all those elements. Because I believe that these are watchdogs, and they should be well armed. They should be secured as well. The security of their lives and that of their loved ones and properties should be paramount. Right. And when we hear stories like this of bandits, being able to override the soldiers with all of their trainings, with all of their arms, it just doesn't make sense.
It's disturbing.
It's really very disturbing. Then who is safe if the people who are supposed to be well equipped enough to be able to safeguard lives and properties of Nigerians are handled this way, mistreated, and are even killed by these bandits and soldiers, kidnappers, I beg your pardon, or even headsmen? Because right here on the front page of this paper it says headsmen, not even and then their arms are taken away. It just shows one of two things. The forces of these headsmen and kidnappers are stronger than that of the armed men, our soldiers. And that the security, the arms that these soldiers have are not enough to protect themselves. How much more the lives of Nigerians and people, and then the location as well where they are posted. Do they have equipment, arms, ammunitions that are sufficient to be able to take down this, because they are there to also take down these bandits, take down these perpetrators of evil, and also safeguard people. But if they're treated this, we hear stories of this. It just doesn't make sense, and it's disturbing. Queen,
okay, well, we're here now, let's go the whole hog. People have talked about the idea of fifth columnists in the army, in the police, in the navy, in the air force, NSCDC, everywhere. You have those who are just practically working against the interest of the nation, even within that military entity, as it were, where they're serving. I mean, how else do militants, bandits, terrorists, whether they are ISWAP or Boko Haram, get to find out what the plan, what the strategy of the military is to be able to ambush them? From Borno to Adamawa to Yobe to Kaduna to Katsina to Zamfara. It's pretty much the same story. We've seen how even top military officers, they've been taken out. Generals, all in the name of ambush here, ambush there. Again, it means that the military must have to work on its internal mechanism better, and those who have been found wanting in this regard must be brought to book by all means, because we can't be having a situation where, with regards to fighting insecurity, we're taking 2 steps forward, we're taking 6 backwards, and we've been here since 2010 in particular. So it's a shame. In fact, in addition to the precious lives that are taken, the embarrassment it causes is also very alarming, because how do you explain that some sort of guerrilla fighters, are the ones coming to take the lives of military people who have been trained, who have invested their lives in ensuring that other people are able to live safe,
you don't want to ask
in their own country.
Absolutely. What is the essence of these trainings that these people have been given for years? We see the rigorous trainings that they go through, and all that, only for it to be sabotaged by the same institution. It's really
You know,
very
it's sad. Hopefully we take our time to address these issues.
Our next point of call you're bringing to us, which
Daily Times newspaper. All right, let's turn to the story, the headline just above the nameplate first. The Daily Times, it says ICPC recovered 13 billion naira diverted public funds in September. That was the chairman of the Independent Corrupts and Other Practices Commission. They're talking. Let's see more for you this morning. Naira plunges by 8.25% amid escalating FX crisis. BOI to disburse 1 billion naira single-digit interest loan to 140 manufacturers. BOI to disburse 1 billion naira single-digit interest loan to 140 manufacturers. Workers kick as FG suspends sale of subsidized rice. We understand they want to expand this to the subnationals, that's to states. Some persons have been asking, why is it not possible for every Nigerian who has their NIN and 40,000 naira to be able to get this 50 kg bag of rice? But we understand that there are modalities for the distribution. We're also hearing that they're starting with the civil servants. But now that we want to extend it to states, hopefully to make it much easier for other Nigerians to also benefit and for it to go round in a manner of speaking. But that also raises the question of how much of it we have available at this point, and is there any plan to restock, and what exactly is the plan?
Those are valid questions as well. So not just, I quite understand that while this is a welcome initiative to help alleviate, this hardship, but the question also, why can't, if I am a Nigerian as well, I also go to the market, I also buy items at very ridiculous prices, and now we have these bags of rice doled out to civil servants, and at the federal level, bring your NIN, bring whatever it is that is necessary and required, and I have it as a Nigerian. Why shouldn't I be able to afford this 40 kg bag of rice? But you know what is even most appalling and alarming is the fact that we have to buy a bag of rice at this ridiculous price. A few years down the line, this amount of money will give you three bags of rice.
That's before now, right?
That's before now. We'll give you 3 bags of rice, and now we have long queues. We're queuing up I was there to look at how this distribution was taking place, and I tell you for the fact, even with people who had their NIN, had all of these, they still had long queues. The process was quite rigorous and all of that, and it was appalling for me because you have your money, you have 40,000 naira. Looking back at where we're coming from, as opposed to now, it's sad that you have 40,000 and you're on a long queue with very disturbing situation, having to queue for a bag of rice. But I just hope that, like the president says, that these steps are going to be difficult, but at the end, I hope that at the end of the day, we would, look back and say, okay, this was for, the betterment of Nigeria. Was just a phase that we had to go through. I don't wish that this would continue, in a long time.
We hope so. Let's see a few more headlines for you quickly. The big one here, which is the Star story, says engage services of military contractors to wipe out terrorists. Says military, that's according to Undume, says military civilian JTF ill-equipped to carry out task of eliminating remaining insurgents. That's Undume to Tinubu there. But in the meantime, the president has jetted out to spend 2 weeks on vacation in the UK. So hopefully he does something about this when he returns. FG's repression of peaceful protests must end. Amnesty International says FG should listen to critics rather than clamping down on peaceful protesters. And then we have the last one just by the foot of it. It says Nigeria requires $410 billion to deliver energy transition plan by 2060. 2060 is some 36 years from now. Okay, so let's see what we can do about that. But We need energy transition, and that's of critical importance. Nobody can fight that. In the meantime, let's go to the Daily Trust newspaper, and Queen has those details for us.
On the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, big story that says 16 buried, 150 still missing after Niger boat mishap. I don't think we learn. Ferry conveying 300 Maulid celebrants. Rescue operation still ongoing. 182 lives lost in 3 years, and we can see pictures, excerpts from these accidents, this particular accident, this boat mishap, and it's sad. 16 buried, 150 people still missing. It just shows that it was early this year that we lost a Nollywood actor, Junior Pope, because of similar incidents, no life jackets in such major rivers and all of that. While these accidents, we cannot control them. Sometimes ships capside, I beg your pardon, boats capside as well, but we shouldn't think that every day when we go out, we will go out without safety measures, especially when you work in such areas or your job requires you need
to travel by water.
Let's even take, for instance, the culture. We just assume. Take, for instance, bikers here in Nigeria. You hardly see them with helmets. And we know how important helmet is when you ride a bike, especially on our Nigerian roads, and with the kinds of people who ride these bikes and the orientation that they have. Some of them don't even have formal training on how to ride a bike or proper training on how to ride a bike. They just pick up the bike because someone in the family has a bike or because it's a business they want to do. Learn it for 2 days, tried it, and they're on the highway or on major roads, and they start their delivery business. I can't even begin to count the number of people who have broken their limbs, their legs, arms, and all that because of the carelessness of these bike riders. And it would have even saved them a whole lot if they had maybe helmets. People have had fractures, brain fractures and all of that because they didn't take precautionary measures or safety measures like wearing a helmet that will save an individual. And so now going to the issue of this boat mishap that has just happened, anything could have happened for that boat to have capsized or this canoe to have capsized. But what safety measures was put in place when you were entering that boat? You just assume that every day would be like
these are I travel every day or every week.
These are and even in the case of Junior Pope, it is sad that somebody said they poured Fanta into the river to appease the gods, and that's why that person did not drown in the river, as opposed to how Junior Pope drowned.
Who probably did pour a drink in water.
Okay, so it flew. That story flew, and I think it sold to some people that they poured Fanta to appease the gods of that water and all of that. And so these myths are what people carry. They're traveling instead of taking safety measures, primary safety measures for your life. No, I don't think people in that boat, because I can see pictures, none of them had safety jackets on this boat or this particular incident. None of them, I can see it. I can see that none of them had safety jackets on. Possibly, it's possible that they poured Fanta as well, or this time around Sprite or some sort of, and then we need proper orientation. Who is even overseeing this? Just like how we have securities on our roads, policemen on our highways. Much attention needs to be paid, because this is, in 3 years, 300 people recorded dead or so incidents in 3 years for this same boat mishap. So what is causing this mishap? And then who are the relevant agencies that are supposed to be by these seasides, by these riverine areas? Are they doing their jobs properly? Are they enforcing it? Are they ensuring that nobody travels without a life jacket? Because this incident will have been avoided. 140 people still missing, and 16 people have been confirmed dead. And this happened yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. And so
late night of Tuesday.
Yes. So, and then now 150 people still missing. What's the possibility of them still surviving underwater
after this
long period of time, over 48 hours?
So you're going to end up most likely recovering corpses.
And it's sad. So if we all do our due diligence, sometimes when we enforce strict rules and we say you can't do this unless you do this, Nigerians just think that you're trying to be bitter or wicked in cases like that. But in the long run, it's for your safety, the safety of your loved ones as well. Most times, let me not digress, but let me put this. We often think about ourselves alone. Okay, we're trying to protect ourselves. We're just trying to do things to get away. Right. Take for instance, you want to travel and somebody is enforcing a helmet or a seat belt. You just think, oh, let me just get this done. But your life is important, not just to you, but to your families as well. Right. You don't want to imagine the sort of trauma that Junior Pope's family was thrown into after his death. Exactly. So when we do things, let's not just think about ourselves alone, but think about the people we leave behind, our loved ones, the businesses, the things that are connected to us, the purpose that are tied to us that we'll be leaving behind. And let's just take that 1 minute of pain to do the right thing, so that whether or not, I thought I would do this show without being emotional today, but you're already succeeding at getting me emotional. Oh, I'm really very sorry. No, it's okay. No apologies, because quite frankly, it is what it is now. These people are someone's parents, children. Look at yesterday, for example, there was an accident in Lagos. A bus ramming into a stationary truck, where 10 lives, including children, were lost. All right. You mentioned something very instructive when you talked about how that when you try to enforce measures that will save people's lives, shield them from trauma, unavoidable pains. Somebody will say you're wicked, you're too high-handed, and all of that. It starts from even schools. You're writing an exam, and the invigilator is working hard to ensure that nobody brings in an extraneous material. Some of us, we tag them wicked. We even call them names. They're doing the right thing. Exactly. They're simply doing the right thing. I mean, I remember one time I was hard pressed to use the restroom. This was in the middle of second semester exam, and it was very important for me, right? Because I hadn't really studied very hard that period because I had personal challenges and all that. And now I had barely started, and I need to go use the restroom. And I had someone follow me all the way. A gentleman had to accompany me all the way, waited and followed me back. Why? The idea was to ensure that I didn't go to bring in an extraneous material, either for myself or for someone else, right? We finished that exam, and somebody said, now, wow, this was a bit over the top. I mean, did they have to assign somebody to go with it? I said, well, that's how it works, basically. In the first instance, the goal was not for me to go and bring in an extraneous material, which we call chukuli. I was pressed. I had to answer the call of nature and all that. What's the point? The point here is this. We must find the discipline as a people and as individuals to understand that at some point, life is rules-based. There are places where you have rules. Some of the students in my class in our second year had to travel to Ghana on excursion, because we used to do that every other year because of my cost of study and all of that. So one of the two lecturers who accompanied them told us when they got back, he was teaching a class on how nations develop. And he said that while they were coming from Ghana, of course they went by a road, came back by a road. The students on the bus, my colleagues, had bought several things from eggs to banana, bottled water, soda drinks, and what have you. So they were eating and keeping all of these things, the peelings, the expanded bottles inside the bus, all the way from Ghana through Togo, all the way through Benin Republic. He said once they crossed over to Nigeria, started throwing everything out the window in Lagos. People laughed because we're all young people. Everybody laughed about it, but it's not a laughing matter. Do you understand? It shows to you that there's something wrong with our psyche. It shows to you that there's a reason they couldn't trash those things all the way from Ghana until they got through Badagry. All right? So it's a reflection of the kind of values that we espouse, and that in itself is a problem. That's number one. Number two is we must find consolation in the fact that Lagos state government over the years, right from the time of former Governor Ambode in particular, as far as I remember, it could have been maybe from the time of former Governor, now President Tinubu, could have been from the time of Fashola, but I do know that 2017, 2018, I was in Lagos in 2018, for example. I had seen what the Lagos state government had done with regards to waterways transportation in particular, yes. Because, I had seen consular workers, embassy workers, U.S. Embassy and the rest, all along that Water Carity Road on Victoria Island, who come to work every day, go back home every day by water. So Lagos State government realizes that if we want to be serious as a government and as a people and as Lagosians, we must make investments in this thing. We must create structures around it. So to answer your question, all the way, because we understand that there's a boundary between Niger State and Kwara State, who regulates that water channel? Absolutely.
What's the Kwara State government doing about it? What's the Niger State government doing about it? So do we have to react every time there's a misfortune, there's a mishap like this? We must be a forward-thinking nation. We must be a futuristic state. I'm talking about Kwara, I'm talking about Niger, I'm talking about other states. Lagos is a case in point, like I mentioned.
Interestingly, these water bodies, when we ask about who regulates it, who are the agencies, the relevant agencies in charge, who are the people who are supposed to be by these, boundaries, overseeing it, it would interest you to know that there are people, there are agencies.
There's a ministry of transport.
If we have to question the efficacy of such ministry or such agency or whatever, it means they're not doing their due diligence. Because particularly in this case of this boat mishap that has been happening for years, so it's a constant, more than once, and the amount of people that have lost their lives in 3 years, that is alarming. It means that whoever it is that is responsible for overseeing such water bodies and such boundaries is not doing their due diligence. I want to believe that this is a call to action for all of us who needs to, because these things are intertwined, whether we like it or not. Today we're talking about the water bodies. Tomorrow it's going to be the rail or the road, our roads, or our aviation and all of that, and other sectors. It cuts across. So if we don't do our due diligence here, you might say that, okay, I don't have a need to travel by water or don't travel by, but you always find yourself, this is the system we find ourselves in. Here in Nigeria, you find yourself at one point or the other complaining or talking about a particular sector that is not doing their due diligence that is now affecting you. So let's not turn a blind eye to what it is that is necessary or needs to be done. I want to believe that relevant agencies and ministries will begin to do their due diligence, because we cannot continue to talk about the government. We ourselves, are also a part of the government. So let's begin to do our due diligence. Let's begin to change the culture of, just like you mentioned, how is it that you have to travel through Ghana, Togo and all of that, and you came back to Nigeria only for you to throw the debts and, our values as well. If not, we would, in the long run, we might just be like, okay, we're passing time doing whatever it is that in the long run will fall back to us. It will fall back to us in the long run.
It definitely will.
Our next point of call you are bringing to us.
I think we still have some headlines from the
Daily Trust. I must have. It says, under the nameplate, says Constitution Review, article proposes rotational presidency. Man to federal government, sanction officials making policies that ruin businesses.
Very, very, very instructive headline. When I saw it this morning, even though time will fail me to read it, I was thinking about it for a second. People get away with too much coin in this country. Policies don't fall through the cracks of the sky. People think out policies. People propose policies, formulate them, structure them, implement them, and are expected to evaluate and monitor them in terms of progress against whatever key performance indicators that they've set and all of that. From, for example, the time of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, this was a government for 8 years. And then we had another government for another 8 years. We have had another government for another 8 years. We have another government that just started doing the second year. Who has been held accountable for policies that failed in health? Whether it's the funding, whether it's the implementation, whether it's the constraints of logistics that were man-made, that happened on account of Queen not doing our parts, we deliberately refusing to play his role, and things like that. Who has been held accountable? Policies in education, infrastructure. The other day, it was a fight between, very tough one, between David Umahi, Minister of Works, and contractors, saying that it has to be concrete, no, it has to be this, no, it has. When such policies failed, because you'll be shocked that the Honorable Minister was reacting to policies that failed with regards to construction of roads, maintenance, and what have you. Who is being held accountable? We have a soundbite like that by the President, Tinubu, who says, who is being held accountable. There must be accountability. And it must not be about the President all day, every day. There are ministers, there are commissioners, there are governors, there are legislators, federal, state, and local, who is being held accountable. There are DGs of agencies. There was one time it was a problem with the NHIS. The DG of NHIS was even suspended under former President Muhammadu Buhari, even though, of course, the man came back to work out of recalcitrance and all of that. But the point we're trying to make is this. The buck must stop in front of somebody. So you can't just come up with policies and then you throw an entire sector into trouble, and then you either leave office as a minister or the life of that administration comes to an end and everybody goes away and Nigerians are left to bear the brunt of themselves.
Absolutely. Let's look at other stories. Governor Lawa's allegations against Matawale despite onslaught on bandits, unpatriotic. Iran-Israel war, federal government moves to evacuate Nigerians in Lebanon. That's a good one. Also, 10 killed in Lagos road accident. And reps reject CFR national honor for speaker, demand GCON. Kebbi governor donates SUVs to emirs. Okay, and these are the stories we have on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Okay, so let's look at the leadership. That will be our last paper before we take a break for the AM news, and then we'll continue with the papers right after the time. The leadership, a big story is waiting for us, but let's take a look at the ones just above the nameplate real quick. Priority in northern Nigeria on increase. Minister is one saying that. You can find details on page 16 for yourself. All right. Boko Haram on domestic engagements of mercenaries. Reps want GCON national honor for Abbas, reject CFR. 169 passengers feared dead in Niger boat mishap. 31 rescued, 70 bodies recovered. Search continues as Kwara, Niger communities mourn. All of those very gory details are on page 4 of the leadership newspaper. Tinubu embarks on 2-week leave. LG Election Commission bill will kill democracy, as according to NNPP. Israel slams travel ban on UN Chief Guterres over Iran. Scores dead as bandits clash in Hasina. Those are some big headlines for you. Hopefully you take a look at them this morning. Then this issue around the LG Election Commission bill will kill democracy, according to the New Nigeria People's Party, has its details on page 8. Will also form a crux of our conversation this morning, with regards to our discussion. But I'm sure we can still take one more. Okay, let's look at the Telegraph before we take a break. The Telegraph newspaper. Okay, let's bring you that quickly.
Okay, on the front page of the new Telegraph paper, big story there says, corruption. We recovered 13 billion naira diverted public funds in September, according to ICPC. Right there says, to empower states, mobilize attorneys general as PCA AGF pledges assistance. Federal government vows to combat corruption with new strategic plan. We have also Tinubu, quite a number of stories here on the New Telegraph. Tinubu approves e-vehicles for use in Northeast, leaves for UK on a 2-week leave. Reps to Tinubu, Abbas deserves GCON, not CFR. Say Speaker equal to Akpabio, higher than CJN. Federal government gazettes withholding tax 2024 regulations. Customs seizes 682 million naira drugs declared as used vehicles. Lebanon, 8 Israeli soldiers killed in fight with Hezbollah. Israel declares UN chiefs persona non grata over Iran attack response. And also above the nameplate we have federal government rolls out fiscal incentives to boost oil and gas sector. And we have Nigerian oil firm moves to buy state-owned refinery in Trinidad. Here we have Minister unfolds new Nigeria UAE BASA deal. Nigerian Airlines to operate in choice airports in the United Arab Emirates. Prosecutors, Trump resorted to crimes after losing 2020 election. And then Niger boat accident, of course, 140 missing, 9 corpses recovered, 150 rescued. Senate rejects bill seeking to license private investigators. And insecurity. Ndume asks Tinubu to engage mercenaries as Boko Haram terrorists slaughter abduct many farmers in Borno. Oh my goodness, this is sad.
Oh.
This is really sad. These are the stories we have on the front page of the New Telegraph. I want to believe you want to react to any of these stories that we've just looked at, or we do that after the AM news.
We'll do all of those reactions, because I'm sure, Queen, there are big stories to be, we need to react to this morning. But we'll take a look at all of them when we return. Nigeria is a country that is challenged on many fronts, but we do believe that with the right attitude, right policies, implementation, and then, of course, putting our money where our mouth is, as they say, we'll get it right very soon.
We'll get it right.
Right. Let's take a quick break now, everyone. When we return after the AM News, to be time to take a look at a few more papers for you, but more importantly, bring you a big conversation on the program today. Do stay with us.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the Global AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nightcomsat. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) has criticized President Bola Tinubu for allegedly making false claim of achievements in his 64th Independence Day speech. The opposition party claimed that the president's speech exposed the ruling All Progressives Congress insensitivity to the struggles of Nigerians. However, in a reaction, the ruling party described the PDP as a party seeking relevance. In the same vein, the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has also criticized the 30-day National Youth Conference announced by President Bola Tinubu in his Independence Anniversary broadcast. The national coordinator of the association, Emmanuel Owubiko, said the conference is a superficial attempt to engage with the youth while ignoring the pressing issues confronting Nigeria's young population. In a related development, the Fearless in October protest recorded a low turnout in the Federal Capital Territory and across states amid the heavy presence of security operatives. The organizers of the protest, the Take It Back movement, rejected the planned 30-day National Youth Conference announced earlier by President Bola Tinubu. The group described the initiative as a jamboree allegedly designed to reward the president's supporters. In a different development, President Bola Tinubu has departed Abuja for the United Kingdom to begin a 2-week vacation. Special Advisor on Information and Strategy to the President, Bayo Nanuga, says the vacation is part of Tinubu's yearly leave, noting that he will use the 2 weeks as a working vacation and a retreat to reflect on his administration's economic reforms. No fewer than 66 countries are expected to participate in the 7th edition of the Kano Indigenous Languages of Africa Film Market and Festival KILAF, scheduled for 30th November 2024. The event, which will be held on 30th November, will be chaired by Professor Emmanuel Emashalu, and the list of nominated films has been released for the KILAF 2024 awards. The festival's founder and chief executive officer, Abdul Karim Mohammed, stated this while addressing newsmen at the Nigerian Union of Journalists Press Center in Kano. KILAF, Africa's Indigenous Languages annual film event that started in 2018, is a festival aimed at promoting such films and encouraging their cross-border sales. Niger State Emergency Management Agency has confirmed reports that a boat conveying no fewer than 300 passengers capsized on River Niger upstream, Jeba Dam in Bajibo community, Mokwa local government area. The agency, in a statement signed by its Director General Abdullahi Ara, says the boat was sailing from Mondi community with a population of almost 300 passengers. It stated that so far about 150 travelers have been rescued, while efforts are on the rescue to the remaining persons. As Nigerians continue to mark this year's Independence Day anniversary, residents in Kano are expressing concerns over the current social and economic problems of Nigeria. Global Television's correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that many Nigerians believe there's no much to celebrate at the moment. His report.
Nigeria faces some of the same old problems, creating jobs and feeding its poor, as well as the more recent and more brutal challenges of insecurity. Look at what is happening in this country. Insecurity is everywhere, banditry and kidnapping. Healthcare is very poor. There is no water supply. 64 years down the line, Kano people argued that Nigerians are still struggling to access basic necessities of life, while the nation's political elites enjoys widespread corruption. You see, I personally believe that our leaders have put us into an unnecessary hardship. Corruption is everywhere in this country, and because of that corruption, they refuse to allow the nation to progress because we are better than so many African countries. Despite these challenges, some Nigerians believe that there may be a light at the end of the tunnel, especially with prayers and commitment to nation building. I don't believe that Nigeria did not achieve anything within the last 64 years. There were so many achievements in this country, and despite the problems we are having, I believe that things will change by the special grace of God. This is a thought of a strategic thinking that evoke hope of a brighter future for Nigeria. That even in time of harsh economic realities, some Nigerians are not actually giving up. From Kano, Idris Jubrin reporting for Global Television News.
Still in Kano State, where youths have shunned the Fearless in October protests as residents were seen going about their daily business, Global Television's correspondent Idris Jibrin, who went round the state, reports that markets and other business centers continued to remain open. His report.
Marred by violence, looting and destruction of both public and private properties, the End Bad Governance protest seems to have taught the people of Kano some vital lessons. Hence, the need to shun the protest scheduled for October 1. Trust me when I say we, the people of Kano, do not withstand unnecessary distraction that may expose our business to security threat. The last protest was a problem to us, and basically this is why this time around we cannot go out and protest. Residents say the last protest would likely have same impact as the one in August, leading to avoidable destruction of property and possible loss of lives. Every sensible human being will tell you that the last protest in Kano was a serious distraction, and what we wanted to achieve hasn't been achieved. Insecurity is everywhere, hunger is everywhere. Across the commercial city of Kano, residents are going about their normal activities with no sign of any group coming out to protest. I think the only thing we need to do is to pray for God's intervention instead of going out on the streets to protest. Even the last one that happened, I believe, was a mistake. And the people of Kano State don't want to repeat that same mistake. Although most Nigerians have continued to face hardship in the face of increasing prices of goods and services across the country, but residents in Kano are saying that instead of going out for protest, it is better to pray for Nigeria's peaceful coexistence. From Kano, Idris Jubrin reporting for Global Television News.
Senator representing Borno South, Mohammed Ndume, has called on President Bola Tinubu to temporarily hire the services of those he called military contractors to wipe out the remnants of Boko Haram terrorists in Borno State. Ndume, who hailed the gallant performance of the military and civilian JTF, say they are ill-equipped to carry out the task of eliminating the remaining insurgents who operate within. Some residents of Edo State have besieged the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC office in Benin City, demanding the recovery of what they claim is the rightful mandate of their preferred candidate, Asue Ighodalo of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Chanting solidarity songs in Yoruba language, the crowd, consisting of supporters from various local government areas, accused the commission of mishandling the election results and called for immediate action to address what they described as electoral injustice. The House of Representatives has rejected the planned conferment of the Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, CFR, on Tajuddin Abbas, Speaker of the Green Chamber. During plenary on Wednesday, the House says it is unacceptable for Tinubu to confer the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, GCON, on Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Kudirat Kekere-Ekun, Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN, while reserving CFR for Abbas. The House passed a resolution following the adoption for a motion of urgent public importance sponsored by Philip Agbese, lawmaker from Benue State. Zamfara state government has intensified its efforts in routine polio immunization as the state initiated a house-to-house vaccination campaign extending to religious centers and schools to immunize eligible children against polio. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Aisha Anka, while going around Gusau and Bungudu local government areas of the state to supervise the polio vaccination campaign, the ongoing campaign is to maintain and sustain its status of not a single polio case in the state for the past 1 year. Global Television brings you details.
Polio routine immunization in Zamfara State is a public health initiative aimed at protecting children from the polio virus, which can cause paralysis or death. The State Commissioner for Health, Aisha Anka, who was in some parts of Gusau and Bungudu local government areas of the state to monitor the ongoing polio vaccination campaign, said the Dauda Lawal administration is committed to the well-being of the residents, and this informed the robust campaign on polio vaccination and support to the health sector.
Okay, we are here for supervision for this polio campaign that is ongoing. His Excellency has directed me to ensure that all the citizens of Zamfara State get the right healthcare services that they deserve. In Zamfara State, quality health services is a right of a citizen, not a privilege.
Director of Immunization, Zamfara Primary Healthcare Board, says the campaign aims to ensure comprehensive coverage and prevent the resurgence of the polio virus by reaching children in all communities, religious centers, schools, and communities, including remote areas.
So, as the Honorable Commissioner rightly said, it was a collective effort of the all that are involved, but the major reason why we succeed now is because of the leadership that we currently enjoy in the state.
Director of Public Health in the Ministry, Dr. Yusuf Abubakar, explained that there is house-to-house and special teams who take the polio vaccination campaign to religious centers, schools, and internally displaced persons camp.
We are enjoying a very, unimaginable, leadership in the health sector. You can see the Honorable Commissioner is here, so that is why you see everybody, is here. All the, including volunteer, everybody is here to support this campaign.
Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal had declared a state of emergency in the health sector to reposition the health sector and improve the health status of residents, which perhaps the ongoing polio vaccination campaign is one of the commitments to realize that goal. For Global Television, Queen Agaba reporting.
A Bayelsa State High Court sitting in Yenagoa has sentenced one Daniel Amaso to life imprisonment for raping a 17-year-old pre-degree student of the state-owned Niger Delta University in Amasoma. Amaso was charged with rape and robbery and causing grievous harm before Honorable Justice Christine Kombo Enegesi. He was consequently found guilty on the 3 counts and sentenced to life imprisonment for the offenses of rape and armed robbery and 7 years for the offense of inflicting grievous harm. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency NIMET has predicted thunderstorms from Thursday to Saturday across the country. NIMET's weather outlook released in Abuja envisaged thunderstorms over parts of Adamawa, Taraba, Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, and Kaduna states during Wednesday's morning hours. According to NIMET, thunderstorms are expected over parts of Bauchi, Adamawa, Kaduna, Katsina, Taraba, Yobe, Zamfara, Borno, and Kebbi states later in the day. In the north-central region, thunderstorms are envisaged over parts of the Federal Capital Territory, Niger, Nasarawa, and Benue states during the morning hours. You're watching the Global AM News on Global Television from the nation's capital, Abuja. When the AM News returns, correspondent spotlights one of the busiest markets in Kano and highlights some of its spectacular features. Details of this and more after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you just joined us, this is Global Television, bringing you live broadcast of the AM News. In business, the National Bureau of Statistics has stated that Nigeria recorded a reduction in petrol importation following the removal of fuel subsidy by President Bola Tinubu in May 2023. It also says the total of fuel imports reduced to 20.30 billion litres in 2023 from the 23.54 billion litres recorded in 2022, showing a decrease of 13.77% year-on-year. It disclosed this in the latest petroleum products distribution statistics released by the agency, as it noted that petrol imports dropped by 3.58 billion litres in the second half of 2023 compared to the year's first half. Yankaba is one of the busiest markets within the metropolitan city of Kano. Its early morning trading section tells a story of how merchants from around the north are trading there daily. In this report, Global Television's correspondent Idris Jibrin visited the Yankaba early morning market to tell us how business is booming despite persistent price increase of goods and services. His report.
Kano is commercially viable, and the people of Kano knows exactly how to do business at any time of the day. This place, for instance, is where vegetables and other perishable goods are sold in Kano. It's called Yankaba Morning Market, which operate at between 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. daily. This our market starts in the morning from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you come here 11 a.m., you will not see anybody. The Yankaba Morning Market is largely patronized by restaurant owners, fast food joints, among other households. It's a market supplying vegetables to other markets in Kano. This market is not only serving the people of Kano. You will see people from different parts of the country coming here to buy vegetables. People from Jigawa, people from Bauchi, people from Katsina. The demand is always high here because supply is often very low, which is leading to price increase of the products. You see, in the last couple of months, the price of vegetable have been very, very cost. But we thank God, and I think now is the season of vegetable. So some are going high, some are going low. While this market continues to thrive in Kano, residents are hopeful that the persistent high cost of living occasioned by the increase in price of goods and services will significantly reduce in the next coming days. From Kano, Idris Jibrin reporting for Global Television News.
The federal government says it is expanding its subsidized rice program to alleviate food insecurity in Nigeria, with sales set to launch in Lagos, Kano and Borno states. A director at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security made this known earlier this week. Early in September, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, announced the launch of 40,000 naira per 50 kg subsidized rice in Abuja, stating that the initiative was part of a broader strategy to ensure that no Nigerian goes to bed hungry. He stated that the subsidized rice program aims to provide relief to citizens amid soaring market prices. The current market price of a 50 kg bag of rice is about 90,000 naira and close to 100,000 naira in some other locations. On the foreign scene, U.S. Senator and Republican Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance and Minnesota Governor and Democratic Vice Presidential candidate Tim Walz were asked to, at the beginning of the debate, whether they would support or oppose a primitive strike by Israel or Iran in the vice presidential debate hosted in New York City.
Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies and, God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well.
Look, Donald Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle.
Hollywood veteran John Amos, best known for his iconic roles in Coming to America and the beloved 1970s sitcom Good Times, has passed away at the age of 84. According to a statement by his son, Kelly Christopher Amos, the actor died of natural causes on August 21st. In an emotional tribute, Kelly expressed deep sorrow over his father's death, describing him as a man with a heart of gold who left a lasting impression on fans around the world. The federal government and the United States Agency for International Development have collaborated to drive technological innovation and sustainable development initiatives in the country. This was disclosed in a statement by the Director of Media and Corporate Communications at the National Space Research and Development Agency, Dr. Felix Ale. The statement noted that their discussions focused on harnessing technology to address pressing developmental challenges in Nigeria. This collaboration was formalized during the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, where Nigeria's Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Naji, met with the agency's Chief Innovation Officer, Mohammed Abdulkader. The United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has been declared a persona non grata and banned from entering Israel following the latest attacks from Iran. Israel's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Israel Katz, made the declaration over Guterres' silence on Iran's latest attack on Israel. Iran launched over 180 ballistic missiles into Israel. In sports, Manchester City midfielder Matheus Nunes has reportedly been arrested on suspicion of stealing a mobile phone at a nightclub in Madrid. The 26-year-old Portuguese international was allegedly detained in the early hours of September 8 at the La Riviera, a popular disco, and taken to a local police station for questioning. Kevin Martins, the 19-year-old son of former Super Eagles striker Obafemi Martins, has made an impressive senior debut for Monza in the Coppa Italia round of 16. The young winger played a pivotal role in his team's 3-1 victory over Brescia, displaying his talent and potential on the field 2012. That's it on the Global AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on DSTV, channel 365, StarTimes, channel 276, and free to air on Nigecomsat. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching, and see you again.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bonds, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Global Morning is your...
All right, thank you everyone for staying with us here on Global Morning. We return to the papers for you. A while ago we left off with the New Telegraph newspaper, but it's time to bring you the Punch a newspaper. Quickly, let's all have on the Punch this morning, beginning with the big story. Says LG Autonomy, governors in fresh move to delay implementation. What exactly are those moves they are making? Well, you can find details for yourself on page 2 of the Punch newspaper today. However, there's a rider here that reads LG's plan to get October allocation from Federation accounts as NOGE others urge enforcement. Then above the name masts, LG poll, INEC withholds register as Fubara, Wiki's camps clash. NNPCL portal shut down, delays petrol supply. That's credited to marketers. PDP crisis, Oyinlola peace panel begins sitting on Monday. FG stabs VAT on diesel, cooking gas. That's in an apparent move to ease the burden that the economy now puts on citizens. And then we take it a bit further down. Customs intercept 682 million naira cannabis in Dika at Tinkan Port. We're told that this consignment had been fraudulently declared as used cars. Court hears Barbican FBN 5.4 billion naira shares dispute October 1. 25 killed in Niger boat crash. Those details are on pages 4 and 5 with a picture of Governor Bago of Niger State. National honors, House not inferior to Senate, reps tell FG. These two shall pass, that's all I can say. All right, but let's move from the Punch newspaper now to this day, where Queen Agaba has all of those headlines for us.
Yes, on the front page of this day newspaper, big story there says, engage military contractors to wipe out Boko Haram. Ndume tells Tinubu, says it's global standard practice, condemns fresh attacks on Borno farmers. Another rider says how the terrorists ambushed our farmers by councillor. Federal government, above the nameplates this time, federal government unveils new fiscal incentives to boost oil and gas sector. Introduces VAT modification, order 20. President and chairman of the board of directors, African Export-Import Bank, that's Afrexim Bank, Professor Benedict Orama, and the Minister of Arts and Culture and the Creative Economy. We have a picture of them there at the Onga 79th, Hanato Musawa there. We also have French ambassador visits Ovia. Rider says founder and chairman, Zenith Bank PLC, Jim Ovia, CFR, presented his highly inspirational book, Africa Arise and Shine, to the French ambassador to Nigeria. These are actually the stories we have on the front page of This Day newspaper. As regards the Naira redesign, I have concerns around why we have everything in double. We have two different 500 Naira notes in Nigeria presently. We have two different 200 Naira notes as well in the same Nigeria. I think we have two different 1,000 Naira notes as well. So I'm beginning to wonder, at what point do we begin to have just a single a single note, let's know that this is, amidst all of the confusions that we're experiencing, I think this Naira, the issue of the Naira redesign and the double notes that we have, all of these double notes that we have, shouldn't be one of them. Can we fix one thing squarely and, you know, move on to the other things? For how long are we going to be new? Of what essence? So what was the purpose of the redesign? At what point do we now begin to say that, okay, this is what we're going with, this is what is going to be our currency?
You know, okay, time will fail us to go into all of these details because they are rigorous, but then let's see how much we can scratch the surface. First off, this was introduced last year, just in the heat of the campaign towards the 2023 general election cycle. And it was Godwin Emefiele, who was the governor at the time, right? He did say that the president, as he then was, Muhammadu Buhari, had approved for this Naira redesign, which cut across 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira bills. But then that became controversial, given the hardship, the trauma, and in some cases deaths that this redesign policy brought to Nigerians. At the time, the former CBN governor defended it, while the former minister of finance was also having issues with the whole idea. But I don't think there was much you could do because if the president had approved it as claimed by Emefiele, then what else could the minister of finance do? In the meantime, the real concern was how Nigerians were having to pay, in some cases, as much as 2,000 Naira at a POS point just to access 5,000. There were people who went to the bank as early as 4 a.m., 5 a.m., only to collect 10,000 by midday, even though they probably wanted much higher amounts than that. Today, Mr. Shonobi, who acted in a few months, for a few months as CBN governor under incumbent President Tinubu, is now saying that it was actually aimed at making the economy better. How true that is remains for development economists to explain to us. Of course, he also has a background in banking, even though he came from tech. That's talking about Mr. Shonobi. In any case, as it stands right now, Queen, the question is, when are we going to get a grip? Because you have double of the 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira bills. The fact of the matter is, on the lighter hand, people will say Nigeria's blessings are double. But in this case, the question is, what is our 1,000 Naira note? What is our 500 Naira note? What is our 200 Naira note? At what point are we going to do away with one and keep the other? But then, that answer is very simple. There's a court order that has said that going forward, these Naira notes that were introduced should be legal tender alongside the conventional, or if you like, the legacy Naira notes. That's how we got to where we are today. So the question is, will the CBN make a move at any point to say, we're going back to the courts to say we want to reverse that order? Or does the CBN have powers, maybe are they autonomous enough to say within the CBN Acts of 2007, we want to do away with one and keep the other? And which one will it be? And on what basis will it be that particular one? So I think those are the issues that should agitate the minds of every forward-thinking Nigeria at this point. But again, there are lessons we must take away from all of this. The chaos that came with it. The fact that even some politicians had said that it was a move to set some people at a disadvantage going into the election. But today, the election is over, and it's been more than 1 year since we had that election. In fact, more than a year and 6 months. And the question is, in what specific ways has this Naira redesign policy benefited
Nigerians? Valid question right there. I hope we do away with the confusion in no time. Let's look at our other story, which you will bring to us this time around.
Okay, I think that will be from the Nigerian Tribune. Right. Let's go the Tribune way, everyone. First, we'll begin with the Star story. It says, oil and gas sector, AG introduces tax incentives, VAT modifications on diesel, CNG, others. The rider says Gazette's withholding tax 2024 regulations. Those details are on page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune, today's issue. Okay, let's take it a bit further down. Many missing as boat carrying over 200 passengers sinks in Niger. Sources say 160 feared dead. Reps rejects Abbas's CFR demand GCON like Akpabio's on page 21. That's where you have all of the details. Hire military contractors to wipe off Terrorists, Sundubai tells FG, laments killings of 6 farmers in Borno. Atiku writes National Assembly proposes rotational presidency. The writer tells us wants minimum education qualification raised. All right. Then, as we go back to the top right front page of the Tribune, Tinubu leaves for UK on 2-week annual leave. I'm not working against Yoruba interests. Bamidele Adeleke threatens to sue APC director for 5 billion naira over alleged defamation. Ekiti returning to Awolowo's farm settlement area to boost feed security. That's Ekiti State Governor there, Oyembaji, talking. Senate summons Works Minister over Oyo Ogbomosho Road. Backs establishment of Agric Varsity in Iragbiji. Rivers LG poll. APC factions disagree over participation in exercise, while we have not released voter register. INEC, those are stories on page 21. I mean the headline, the details on page 21 of today's issue of the Nigerian Tribune. All right, let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, which happens to be our last today, and Queen has all those headlines for us.
Yes, on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, we have Edo PDP protests governorship election result. Above the nameplates here, federal government grants tax exemptions to oil and gas sector. Rivers local government polls, INEC, RCEC disagree over voters register as Fubawa declares today and tomorrow public holiday. Reps reject CFR demand, GCON honor for speaker. And the big story right here says, end bad governance, lawyers, CSOs kick as hundreds of protesters rot in detention. 2,412 protesters held in 10 states and Abuja ask federal government to withdraw charges, unconditionally release protesters. Withdraw charges against protesters, senior advocate of Nigeria urges federal government. And then we have Nigeria's capital market delegation visits JSE South Africa. 150 fed dead in Niger boat mishap, 16 bodies recovered. Tinubu off to UK, begins 2 weeks annual leave. And then we have constitutional amendment. Atiku proposes rotational presidency, 5-year single tenure, and others. Ondo Gaba, youths protest and call for redeployment of REC. And lastly, on the Vanguard, we have sports here. Guavio gives conditions to lead Super Eagles full-time. Basically, we've reacted to most of the stories on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. So these are the headlines we have on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
And for the Edo people, Edo PDP, I should say, that will not here took a protest to the office of INEC in Benin City. I'm sure, I don't know how much that will achieve. I'm not so sure of it. I'm not so sure. But while on the one hand, you can't stop people from protesting, at least peacefully, you also realize that at this point there's next to nothing INEC can do. All right, it's not in the hands of courts. You know, when politicians set the rules, most times from a place of selfish interest, they don't understand how much of ripple effect can have now and in future. And most times, future is not as far as we think, right? Every time someone loses election, we tell them go to court, go to court, go to courts. We have seen with the PDP, we've seen it with the APC, even when the APC was ACN. I mean, we've seen it with virtually every party today that's in power, whether at the state, federal, or even local level. But you see, the question people have been asking the whole time, I mean, these last 25 years is, can we not have a situation where an election is conducted and we can say we have found closure just on the basis of the announcement by INEC, without having to say go to court, don't go to court, and all of that? Today, is the PDP going to INEC office to protest, to say, look, the election that produced Senator Monday Okpebolo as the governor-elect was flawed? As a matter of fact, they are even saying that PDP categorically won the election. So PDP in Edo State claims that we were rigged out, right? Let's even say, for the purpose of this conversation on the program this morning, there is a whole lot of truth in that. It also means that INEC cannot reverse itself at this point anymore. So INEC will have to go to court to go explain how the election was conducted, what the issues are. And it's the PDP and its candidates that must take that matter to court. Of course, the PDP has said very unequivocally that they are going to court over this issue. So I suggest that we wait until when that happens, and then we'll see how it pans out. So the legal option is very robust for the PDP and, of course, for the candidate as well.
For all. We just want to hope that, and one thing with Nigeria, I want to take this back to the case with the Verydark Man and, the Bobrisky saga indicting the EFCC and, the police and other people, correctional service officers as well. And then lawsuit has been slammed here and there, and we want to ask, with all of this lawsuit, this is not the first time these lawsuits have been slammed, and then with court cases here and there, the outcome of these cases, are they going to be, is justice going to be given? Is justice going to be served? For every time that we have to go to courts, do we have faith in our judicial system? I beg your pardon. And what happens next? A lot has been uncovered in a couple of days as regards these incidents. Like I said earlier, the EFCC indicted, the correctional service officers indicted as well. And I was staying with Michael a few days back, that. And then when the Deputy Inspector General, Deputy Controller of prison was, suspended, and when he appeared at the a few days ago as well, before the House of Reps member who were probing these incidents, he said that this person was given a special cell, was taken to a special cell because of special features. And I was asking, since when did we begin to have consideration for transgenders in our law, in our constitution? For how long have we begun to? This same constitution will make provision for transgenders, and now how come we now have special cells for people with these cases? How did that come about? And so there are things that happen, and it's questionable. It just tells you the many loopholes that are in the system, how much corruption has eaten deep into, he was also charged for money laundering, which was waived aside. I mean, these voice notes were out. Right. He made mention of all of these things, and how the charges were waived, waived aside, and then he was just so he begins to wonder, and he has so much confidence in the court, seeing all of these evidences because of the nature of our judicial system. So when we talk about politicians, we talk about elections, because of course it's become a norm. After every election, people are going to court. It's the losing sides go to court, But the thing is, what happens, because during the election, we see videos, we see if there were irregularities. Most of the time, let's take for instance the last election that we had, there were irregularities, malfunctions here and there, vote buying and all of that. We saw videos, we saw evidences, we saw people talking about it, we saw first-hand testimonials and all of that. And then the issue of going to court, when these cases get to court, how they become what we cannot understand is, alarming, is appalling as well. And so people are beginning to ask, do we even have a judicial system that we can have faith in? Owing to the fact that before going to court, there are concrete evidences, but by the time you go to court, and by the time you receive the judgment from the court, you begin to ponder what is the essence of going. So people don't even want to go to court again because of how much those who are on the wrong side of the law have so much confidence in the court, as opposed to those who are actually doing the right thing.
It's quite a sad narrative. I've spoken with lawyers. I mean, these are people who understand the law, all right, because the rest of us are not learned, all right. I've spoken with them time and again about all of these issues. So, our judicial system, what exactly is happening? We talk about reforms in the judicial system. Sometimes we even use the term sweeping reforms. Have we seen those reforms? Have they come to fruition? We just got a new CJN a couple of days ago, barely a week ago. I mean, she got sworn in by the president. And she did say that she will have zero tolerance for corruption. she did talk about how that she will bring reforms into the judiciary. But this is not the first time we would hear a CJN say that upon assumption of office, right? But we do hope that the Honorable CJN, talking about Kekere Ekun, will do right by the people of Nigeria, will do right by the judiciary itself, all right? Because in the end, what does happen is when you have a system where people can't trust the judiciary, and then you say you are driving foreign direct investment, the question is, when it comes to litigation, what happens to those foreign investors? How do they seek redress, for example, if they feel their rights have been trampled upon one way or another? It's very important, because once people lose I don't want to say interest, confidence in the judiciary, it means you're trying to tell them that there's a breakdown in law and order. It means you're trying to tell them that law enforcement is even broken too, because in the final analysis, the buck stops with the judiciary. We'll say prosecute this person, prosecute that person. How do you prosecute them when you have a dysfunctional judicial system? In 2015, we got the ACJA, that's the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and people said, well, this is a game changer. It's been virtually a decade down the line. The question is, how much of the game have we changed, and in what particular ways have we changed that game? Well, we'll keep talking to lawyers, and more importantly, we keep talking to ourselves.
Absolutely. And you wonder why people just want to make money. Why people want to make money. We're asking ourselves, why is there so much perpetration of crimes here in Nigeria? Why are people doing everything possible to make money? You see young people, very young people, doing all that they can just to make money, acquire wealth, going as far as killing humans to make very bizarre things that people do to make money. This is one of it. The impression that we have created over time, where we see lawmakers who have done wrong, where we see politicians and public office holders who are supposed to be in court will have special cells outside of court, where they are well fed, well protected, and even living better than those who are not supposed to be in prison, who are not supposed to be in cell. It just tells you, because the narrative now going on social media is that prison is for the poor, the cell is for the poor. Once you have money in Nigeria, you can do away with whatever it is you want to do. That is the impression we have, because we've seen it over and over again. When we continue to hear governors, people who, what it takes to be, we do not in this part of the world, in this part of the world, Nigeria, we don't understand what it means to be a leader, because we've seen people abuse the position of leadership over and over again.
Reckless abandon.
And they do it with so much confidence. It almost looks like if you've not embezzled money and you're in government, you are not fit to. So it's abnormal, where we see right-thinking people doing the right thing, it almost looks bizarre too. It almost looks abnormal. Just how you see, you think good now looks like evil now looks like good. I don't know how best to put it. And so it's disheartening. And then you're wondering why, because young people have people they emulate. Sometimes we say, it's not all about the government, it's not all about the government, but it's about the government as well. We're saying that, when we blame the government, we need to fix ourselves. We need to I quite agree. Individuals have to do the right thing to do. But a situation where the government, the leadership is faulty, what lies the fate of those who are being led?
Right.
Because they take cues from the leaders. Today, this person is convicted for so and so thing. What happens later? How do we follow through to ensure that justice is served? Justice is served, and we see that justice is never served. What happens? They go to courts, the case is adjourned over and over again, and you see this person living life at large, embezzling millions of naira, and then you say somebody that stole in the market, maybe stole a cup of rice or something, is thrown into cell, is thrown behind bars, and then you see these people who have embezzled millions, who have endangered the life of Nigerians, who as a result of their selfishness has made a lot of Nigerians die, put the health sector in jeopardy, put a lot of things in Nigeria in jeopardy, walking freely, traveling the world, traveling the country, and then you tell young people not to do anything to make money, because they know that if they make money, they can evade justice.
Right.
And so we need to, we need to, be right-thinking people and worthy of emulation. Let our judicial system, I want to believe that the new CJN will do right by Nigerians, will do the right thing, will look at this country and do fair, do right, just to help us, because if the judicial system of Nigeria goes again beyond what it is, I don't know what lies the fate of Nigerians and what justice would be for an average Nigerian who just wants to live, basically. What justice will look like for them. And I just pray, I just really hope that the new CJN will do right by Nigerian and will be able to fix our judicial system, and people will again have faith in the judiciary. Because when we have faith in the judiciary, there's certain things that people, the confidence of people. This time, this time, people take laws into their hand because, again, they don't have faith in the judiciary. Right. So whatever happens, let it happen. But they're taking laws into their hands because they don't have faith in the judiciary. But I just want to hope, I just want to pray that we'll have reduced incidences of crime. Young people will not be thinking very abstract thoughts as to killing another human being to make money. You're asking, where did this quest come from? How did we get here? Doing, drugs, going into very terrible things just to make money, because you feel that here in this part of the world, it's a jungle. And once you make money, anything goes for you.
It's quite pathetic, because I think another concern people have now about this whole issue, obviously involving Idris Okoneye, popularly called Bobrisky, is how two otherwise noble institutions have been dragged into it. The Nigerian Correctional Service and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Straight away, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, suspended two of the officers that were said to have been involved at that level. All right? That's embarrassing. All right, over an issue that is said to be involving some 15 million naira, about how that some persons had allegedly been bribed to drop charges bordering on money laundering, so they could pursue the ones that had to do with mutilation and abuse of the naira and what have you. We understand there are times where law enforcement, whether it's the police or the EFCC, will have to reach some sort of understanding with a suspect or an accused person or something, right? Plea bargain, they call it, right? But even when you do plea bargain, there are standards, there are procedures for plea bargain. We are seeing that being done with certain former governors in this country and other politically exposed persons. But when you do that and a few weeks or a few months or a few years later, we're now hearing that some individuals had actually been induced, it becomes very concerning. Even in the US, there's plea bargain. But there's transparency in the process, not a situation that leads to suspension of officers. And the National Assembly even condescended low. That's a different angle to the conversation. To inviting VDM, the very dark man as they call him, inviting Bobrisky, who didn't show up, instead sent his lawyer. And on that basis, VDM says, I'm not talking because I can't come here myself, even with my lawyer by my side. And the other person who had equally been invited refused to come, instead sending lawyer. So if a lawyer can come fill in for you, it means my lawyer can also fill in for me. So it took his lawyer to persuade him, to make him talk. But you see, this is a show of shame. We can lie to ourselves all we want. In the final analysis, we must have the courage to ask ourselves, is this how countries develop? I can't imagine this on the floor of the US Congress, for instance. We must always revert to the US, because people say that's where we took this democracy from, the presidential system of government that we have in this country. Therefore, if there is a standard for us in one area, there should be standard in everything else, especially as it has to do with the system of government in this country and all of the other principles that follow.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, these are some of the issues that we consider pivotal, and we hope that also the National Assembly will focus on more critical issues as bothering on Nigerians, more issues affecting Nigerians and the daily livings of Nigerians. And I hope that justice, like we say, is served, and the judiciary do their due diligence as well. On that note, this is where we call it a wrap on our newspaper review this morning. We'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll have our guest coming on big issues and topical issues of national interest. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television, getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Let's get our conversation on the road, everyone. Elections in this country have been very topical for discussion. As a matter of fact, at the turn of let's say what we'll now call just behind the 2023 general election, it has become even more of a serious discussion. And with this barrage, as I like to refer to them, of local government elections across this country, it has never even been more important to talk about elections in this country. I'm joined by James Ugochukwu, election analyst and good governance advocate, executive director, Alliance for Inclusive Development, also called Aid Africa, General Secretary, West Africa Civil Society Forum, to help us find sense in all of this. James, thank you for joining us on Global Morning.
Good morning, thanks for having me on the show.
Incidentally, you returned from Edo State not too long ago, where you also had gone to monitor the election there. Time failed us to talk about all of those issues once you got back to Abuja, but what would you say are some issues that stuck out for not just you as an individual, but all of your colleagues who are in the civic space?
Well, there's nothing new that happened in Edo that we have not been seeing before. The only difference now that those people, they behave smarter this time around, and we didn't count ballot and count dead bodies. That is, for the first time, we didn't hear that anybody was killed. And this is a very good news for us, and I think that should be sustained. Now, other things that stood out for us actually is looking at the way and manner the election was conducted, because we call that INEC, that election failed integrity test. Integrity test in the sense that before any election, we engage with INEC, and of course, we list out our expectation before the election. And these are the things that we'll be doing over and over again. And of course, when it starts happening, our duty is to tell INEC that, okay, you are doing well in this, you are not doing well in that. For the good ones, now let's start from the good ones before we go to the ones that didn't work out well. When it comes to the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS machine, it worked optimally well this time around. And of course, the uploading of the result on the RF portal worked well, because the BVAS is used for both exercise. So in terms of the BVAS now, I think up to 97% of the polling unit that we visited, we had a very seamless functionality of the BVAS, especially in the area of facial authentication, because it uses fingerprints and facial. So the facial authentication was very, very optimal in terms of performance. And of course, even the upload of a result on the IRF, at the record time of, I think, 6:30 or so, we have about 95% of the results already uploaded on the IRF. So these are the good kudos for, or thumbs up for INEC. And on the flip side is the issue of logistics, as usual. We discover a situation where INEC on election day, where the whole road is locked down, there's no movement of people and all that, INEC cannot move materials from Oredo Super Rack to this polling unit within the upper palace and the upper market and all that, as at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. So these are things we keep on complaining. And by the time we went to Ogbe Primary School in Oredo there, which is a super rack, we saw a lot of INEC personnel, ad hoc staff, youth corps member and all that, waiting for materials to be moved to their different polling units. And one notable thing we saw was one single box, or very few buses coming to convey this INEC officials to their different locations. And these are the things we keep on complaining, logistics, because the way election is that once logistics is affected at the onset, it affects the whole election value chain. It will dovetail to late arrival of materials, to dovetail to people coming out to vote and getting frustrated and going home, because people are performing their civic duties, even though some people sell their votes, some people don't have that waiting power. So now, if the material didn't arrive on time, you see people waiting and they will leave, and that is a loss for whoever they wanted to support. Then it will lead to late conclusion of the poll. Then the coalition will dovetail in the midnight, and the political party will start fighting. So we have always been telling INEC that they need to work on their logistics. That is one of the weakest link in their election management.
That's interesting. Again, if what we're hearing coming out from Edo is I need to go by, it means the call by some people to say, look, we should allow INEC conduct local government elections, maybe something for the future.
At our interactive session with INEC chairman, I think around July or so, he said that INEC is prepared to conduct, or they are capable of conducting local government election. But the truth is, Section 197, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution established the State Independent Electoral Commission. So for INEC to come and conduct election, that means we need to amend that act to remove that particular clause. And of course, INEC that the people are already not having confidence in, bringing them to conduct local government election, what do we think is going to change? I think what we should be looking at is how to build the capacity of State Independent Electoral Commission to perform their duty. Because the way it is now, most of them have not conducted election for several years. This local government autonomy that the Supreme Court gave, that is making all of them now to start running helter-skelter to, conduct elections. So the capacity of the State Independent Electoral Commission need to be built, from their chairman to the last person that is working there. Most of them are just there collecting salary. They don't actually know what it is to conduct election. So for me, this is my personal opinion though, I think State Independent Electoral Commission should be allowed to conduct local government election.
And you say they should empower them. That raises the concern around what exactly should be done for them to empower them. Rivers State has an election coming up shortly. The same thing for a state like Benue. Ogun is not different. We've seen a bunch of them conducted already, with the latest being the Anambra State, for example. How do we empower them to be more effective with the party in power sweeping all the local governments in almost every other case?
It's twofold. One, we should look at the constitutional provision of the establishment of the local government, State Independent Electoral Commission. Section 198 stipulated what it takes, to have a State Independent Electoral Commission in place. But in that, you see the same problem we are having with the Independent Electoral Commission, the national. We are having a clause that says that the governor should appoint the chairperson of the State Independent Electoral Commission, and approved by the State Houses of Assembly. Now this is the snag, and that is the problem we are having with the INEC itself. It doesn't make any sense for the president to be appointing the INEC chairman. The same way, it doesn't make any sense for the governor to be appointing the State Independent Electoral Chairman, because the loyalty of that person will be in doubt. Even if the person is apolitical, is not aligned to any party and everything, people will be doubting the person based on the fact that, yes, this person was single-handedly picked by the president. Towards 2023, I made a submission in one of my media engagements, not here though, that the appointment of the INEC chairman should be carried out by the National Judicial Council. They should, advertise it like any other vacancy, allow Nigerians to apply and let them go through screening, so that at the end of the day, whoever emerges will be beholden to nobody. Now, the State Independent Electoral Commission now, the chairman now, will be appointed by the governor and give it to the State Houses of Assembly member, which all of us know that in most states, the State Houses of Assembly members are in the pocket of the governor. It's whatever the governor tells them that they will do. The governor tells them to jump, they will ask, how high do you want us to jump? So is that the kind of system we want to run? So empowering these people is, first of all, their mode of appointment or the leadership recruitment to State Independent Electoral Commission. That's one point. The second point is the capacity building and training of these officials. So they need to be trained by we have the Electoral Institute in Abuja here. So these guys can be trained on conducting election day logistics and everything, because election is a complete discipline on its own and needs to be studied very well. So their capacity needs to be built so that on the election day, they should be able to go to the field and, of course, perform very well.
Today, the Punch newspaper has a story that is saying that, look, some governors are trying to be very smart with the implementation of the local government autonomy, which was granted by the Supreme Court sometime in July. That's the idea is governors want to be able to collect allocation for the month of October and what have you. In the meantime, we also understand that the panel set up by the federal government to implement the LG autonomy is ready with his reports. Will likely present that reports on or before 13th of October, which is, of course, this month. Is local government autonomy all about money? Because that appears to be the only strand of the conversation we're having.
Well, when it comes to local government autonomy, I think we'll be raising the question if we should go the long haul.
What the long haul?
Good. The long haul now is that it should transcend beyond money. Because apparently now what the governors are just leading is that, okay, let us do this so that our allocation will not be seized. So if that is their mindset or their expectation, and of course if you cap it with the ugly fact that in most of these states, the party in power wins all the local government seats down to the world level, then we have a very big problem on our hand. So going the long haul now is first of all, revisiting the 1999 constitution that, established the local government system. And of course, affirming the ruling of the Supreme Court and implementing it to the letter, which is to cut the umbilical cord that linked the local government system to the governors. Because even the NFIU Act of 2019 that was signed in June, July 2019, it gave the local government complete autonomy, separated the state's joint accounts. But most of these governors, they don't adhere to it. In fact, when they took this into the National Assembly passed it, both the State Senate and the House of Representatives, they took this into State House of Assembly, and the State House of Assembly kicked against it.
Right.
Why? Because these people were under the influence of the governors. So now, going to law hall, one is that we're looking at the allocation is one thing. We're looking at security. We're looking at who owns the education and the healthcare system, and other, major things that constitute the local government system. So now, for them to function very well, I think these state governments need to know where their boundary stops and where that of local government starts. And of course, they should allow the local government to receive their allocation directly from the government to execute what they need to execute, to run the administration. Otherwise, the way it's going now that the state governors are jostling and taking over, capturing every local government's council for their own party. It's a very ugly incident that I don't think is going to help us in our quest for a free and autonomous local government system.
If you look at a place like River State right now, of course, that story, development in River State has a very strong political elements. But beyond the fight between the governor of the state, Siminala Ayefubara, and his now estranged benefactor, Mr. Nyesom Wike, what are the peculiarities of the local government issues in Rivers when you look at it against the backdrop of what you have in other states? There's the back and forth as to what register should be used. Meanwhile, there's a court order that says that the River State Independent Electoral Commission cannot use the 2023 register, and we understand INEC has withheld it and is not making it available. What's the implication if they can't use that register?
Well, the implication now is that are going to have one of the most fraudulent elections in the River State.
As it stands, right?
Yes, as it stands. Because if other states have been using 2023 register, because for crying out loud, does River State have their own PVC or any form of identification for voters? So on what premise are they going to conduct the election if they cannot use the PVC that has been printed by INEC? And you cannot use INEC voter registers, or even the limitation of each and every one of the walls and all those things. So I think River is heading to chaos if care is not taken, and that court ruling should be challenged. If you ask me, the provision of the Constitution and the Electoral Act still gives INEC the power to do registration, do the capture of voters register, maintain the voter register, and of course transmit it to State Independent Electoral Commission when they want to use it for election. So I think if care is not taken, that is going to spell serious disaster during the election. They should allow people to come out, use their PVC, use the voter register, and let the voting continue. Because the concern now is that are they now going to revert to option A4, or which option are they going to bring to the table this time? They are not depending on what INEC is going to use. Right. Most of these State Independent Electoral Commission are still going to get a machine and all that from INEC, the beavers and the like. They're going to get all those ones. So if they're going to use beavers that use it for authentication and voter accreditation, and use it for maybe they want to upload it and all those things, then if we ride on that judgment, that means they are not going to use all that. So what option is River State going to use? So I think that particular ruling, I don't understand why it came the way it is. I think it's not sounding good, actually.
When I talk to people about local government autonomy in Nigeria, they express the fear that there's still the chance that governors can, if you like, still have a stranglehold on local government system in this country, for the singular fact that they are able to, in one way or another, determine who becomes the chairman of a local government across all the local governments in their states, whether or not there is autonomy granted to the local governments in this country. Is that your sentiment as a civil society person?
It's already happening. It's already happening. Check any state. Once there is election there, the ruling party wins all the local government seats. There's the allegation that most of these results are computed in the government house. They will just go there, fill the result sheet, do a kangaroo election, and that's it. I watched some video online where in Imo, where you see massive thumb printing and stuffing of ballot boxes, things that we have done away with in the past. So it's already happening. When in Anambra, Abga won all the local government, in Enugu, PDP won all the local government, in Imo, APC won all the local governments, I think in Lagos. So you see that what these people are doing now is that they are rescinding in the gains we have made in our democratic setting, because what they are doing is not democracy. Because the beauty of democracy is checks and balance.
Right.
So what we have now is balance. There's no check. Because the situation where we have all the local government chairmen from the same party, then nobody is going to question what the governor is going to do. And we have the State House of Assembly under the pocket of the governor. Nobody is going to question what the governor is doing. So it doesn't sound well for our democracy, and I think it's something Nigerians should start questioning. Because at the end of the day, what this will be leading to now is the voters' apathy. Because when people now know that, okay, the election, the state election is a charade, that if they come out, their vote will not count, or they will not even vote at all, then what's the point? They will just collect PVC to use it for biometric in banks and all that, not for voting. And that is not a democracy, because democracy is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. So what they are doing in most states is executive class, if I call it that way, government by the executive. So that's how it is.
It's interesting, but then we're taking a quick break now, everyone, on the program, so that we can come back shortly to take a look at a few more concerns regarding grassroots governance in this country, how issues around autonomy and election pose very serious headwinds, and ways in which practical solutions can be provided to these problems. Do stay with us. Well, let's stretch the conversation further, everyone. James, let's talk about bodies like NULGE, N-U-L-G-E, the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, and then, of course, you have the ALGON, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria. And then, of course, you have the Nigeria Labour Congress, and so on and so forth. What should be their role in ensuring that local governments become more functional, aggressively driving development at the grassroots, particularly in light of these Supreme Court judgments?
Well, I think one of the big gains of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is the granting of local government autonomy, because it's a cat that nobody has been able to have the balls to, bear all this while. And of course, the Constitution made provision for local government as a third tier of government, and the idea is simple: to get development closer to the people. But you see that it's like a rain that is falling towards the local government and the state government. They will hang it and it will not get to them. Of course, if we have all these bodies you've mentioned, NULGE, ALGON, and other ones that we are here to know, I think it's a serious civic duty on their part to ensure that they use their power to wrestle this authority from the state government to the local government chairman, because if that is not done, the essence of the Supreme Court judgment will be defeated, because the allocation will end up with the state government as usual. They will give it to the local government chairman. If they like your face, they give you some. If they don't like your face, they will seize your allocation. The internally generated revenue will still be remitting it to the state government, and of course the development at the grassroots will be left unattended to. So now the bodies you have mentioned now, they can go about this thing through serious policy advocacy, through protest if need be, through strike if the state government don't allow them to breathe the way they're supposed to be. So power should return to the local government level, and then the people feel the impact of democracy, because as it is now, most local government chairmen now, most of them, they live in Abuja. You know, they just appoint them, they come to Abuja, they stay in a fine hotel, they stay there as long as they like, can never go to the local government and meet the local government chairman. It's always in Abuja. What he's doing in Abuja, I don't know. Why? Because the person is actually don't have anything to do in the state local government. The funds are not there. It doesn't have access to fund. Needs approval from the governor to do one or two things. But by the time this autonomy is fully granted to the people, I mean to the local government chairman, then you will now see that the people can now directly go to the local government and hold them accountable. Then this is where the Nogera gun and the rest will come in. They should now be able to build the capacity of trade union groups, traditional and religious institutions, youth group, women group within the local government to hold their local government accountable, both the local government chairman, both the local government councillor, so that any revenue that is being generated within that local government will be made accountable to the people, because that is not existing as it is. Because as we speak now, most people don't even know the name of their local government chairman. Most people don't even know the budget of their local government. They've not even seen it, talk more of reading it. So, and this is exactly what the politicians like. They will divert your attention to Tinubu. That is your problem. All the allocation they are giving to the states and the local government, who is accounting for it? Nobody is accounting for it. So this is the status quo these governors want to maintain, and of course Algon, Nolge and all this, they should stand up and fight against this absolute control.
You know, absolute control indeed. You've talked about helping all of these, the workers at the grassroots, those who drive the local government system to its capacity, and you say these bodies have very vital role to play in that regard. But the people, members of the public, those who are supposed to be beneficiaries of these developments at the grassroots level, seem to be very disconnected. For example, like you rightly mentioned, there are people who do not know the name of their local government chairman, even when they reside in that local government. They have no idea how much the local government gets as allocation, how much it realizes as IGR, whether on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. When we say hold your leaders accountable, hold political office holders accountable, you've got to have the facts, you've got to be familiar with the figures and follow the development to be able to follow the money. How do we get the people to be very enlightened, politically conscious enough to pursue this sort of monitoring?
Yes, I think it's a multi-stakeholder affair in the sense that there are a lot of give and take from it. For instance now, some couple of weeks back, or was it last week now, there's this news everywhere that the president wants to sack some of his ministers because they are not using the media enough to communicate the gains of his administration. Now, I'm underlining that statement very well. Now, the question we're asking is, for the people to feel the impact of the government, they should be able to know what is happening or how to go about it. And that is where the work of the National Orientation Agency comes into play. National Orientation Agency have branches all over the local government. It's one of the well-penetrated government agency. So that is where their work should come into play, to go and sensitize people at the grassroots that they look, this is a local government budget. Because if an individual go to the local government chairman office and say, I need the budget, the local government chairman will not listen to him. But if National Orientation Agency say, give us your budget, they can never question that, right? So when the budget is available, let the NOA upload it on their website. So you click your state, click your local government, click the budget to be able to see the budget. Then they should make the local government to open up their accounting system, their financial system. And that is where the work of supplementary work of the what we call the civil society comes to play now through open governance partnership that we have been doing. We've been doing it across at a state level now. I think it's time now to put it down to local government level. So when they have open governance partnership, we're able to know how much is this local government generating, what is it being used for. All we ask for is transparency. It's our money. Okay, we'll go and meet a village woman in the market store selling vegetable that the total capital of that business is not up to 100,000. You collect, you give the person ticket, he will pay. Next market day you come. The market days that are daily, you'll be collecting it on a daily. People deserve to know what their money is being used for. Not that the money will be collected and it will leak into one big man or political stalwart pocket. So this is where the National Orientation Agency to come into play. And of course, can even be an executive order from the president and say, look, every local government should display their budget for everybody to see. Because if the president can go to National Assembly and present the appropriation bill, then there should be that level of transparency at the local government level. Prepare the budget. In fact, the budget should not even be prepared by the local government alone. There should be inclusivity. Because that's the essence of democracy, participation and inclusion. So people should be able to come and articulate their own need. So market women can say, okay, this particular section of the market needs to be tarred, or the roof of this particular side is leaking, put it in the budget. We need road in so place, put it in the budget. In so hospital in this ward, we don't have drugs, put it in the budget. Not that we just sit in the local government, call one accountant and they will photocopy last year's budget at that just figure and you call it a budget. It should be participatory, and that is when NOLGE, ALGON, NOA, all of them should align and join forces and ensure that the people are enlightened to know what they're supposed to know.
The panel that has been set up by the federal government, which is very, people say, all-inclusive, of course, state governments, local governments, even civil society represented there, all right, headed by, again, the Secretary of the Government of the Federation. It also has ministers there, finance and budget as part of the panel. That panel, we understand, in a matter of days, will submit its reports. First, do you think that panel has done a great work so far? I mean, because we've not heard much about what their deliberations have been about, but that report will be submitted in a matter of time, shortly. What are your expectations in that regard?
Well, it boils down to what we are saying, or maybe I'm wrong. I've actually not seen the activity of those panels that have been set up, because a panel of that nature should be something that we have. Should be in public space. For public space, one, and then of course there should be updates on whatever they are doing. So our expectation now is that they should, at least to a very large extent, strengthen the content of the ruling of the Supreme Court to ensure that each and every section of that ruling is implemented to the letter. So we'll be expecting a roadmap from them, a work plan, a framework that every local government can, key into across board, and of course, recommendation for some executive orders, as I've just said, because I know how these governors behave. They will pass everything. When it gets to the state, it's okay, the federal government are done doing their own. Okay, this is the state. Let us see how you are going to do it. So they should go as far as recommending that any state government that stop fund from going to the local government should have their own allocation since the next moment. So unless they take that kind of drastic measure, they will still be playing games with us.
There are people who are arguing, saying that local government autonomy or not, I mean, regardless of the Supreme Court judgments, that governors are still going to use backdoor to, as it were, suck resources from local government, particularly as it has to do with your IGRO and the monthly allocation. Others say, well, that won't be a problem much, because local government chairmen do not have immunity clause covering them. And as such, if they run foul of the law regarding financial misappropriation and impropriety of any kind, the FCC and other relevant law enforcement agencies of the government will come for them. But should that happen, whether they get prosecuted or not, does that not further plunge the local government system into the abyss?
Well, the thing is, this is where holding them accountable comes into play, because now that they don't have immunity, these guys are very creative when it comes to manipulating things. So you will see them there sitting very pretty well, and of course diverting local government fund. And of course, when they say they don't have immunity clause, I think there should be provision for protection so that they will be allowed to do their work and of course at the same time they won't be dragging them when they are still working. I don't know if I'm getting my point now. Because a situation whereby they don't allow them to work, maybe the opposition party is just using the court and the AFCC and everything to be distracting them. It could be a blackmail that, okay, if you don't do this, if you don't give me so amount of money, I'll call the FCC and all those things. So the military clause should have a balance. They should be allowed to work, and where there's concrete evidence that they are running foul of the law, diverting money out, I think they should be picked up and prosecuted accordingly. And of course, protecting them from the state governors. That one should be a provision of the law, extant law, guidelines, framework, and all that, executive orders. They can do that. And of course, doing that now could include, as I said before, seizing state government allocation. Obasanjo once did it in 1999. Yes, when this president, current president was governor, he seized the allocation for almost, you understand? So the president should have that kind of executive order, because if this is not done, we'll still be crying. I always have this opinion, and I'm strongly persuaded that development is local. If your local government is developed, mine is developed, the other person is developed, we won't be complaining. All of us will not be coming to Abuja to seek for greener pasture and all that. So if local government is developed across board, of course the whole country will be developed.
Lastly, let's talk about political parties and what their role should be in developing local governments. It will appear in Nigeria, political parties are more focused on conducting elections, determining who the money bags are, so they're able to figure out who to give their tickets to. I mean, we've seen that happen since 1999. What should be, ideally, the specific rules, or if you like, the contribution of political parties towards ensuring that local government system in this country is strengthened?
I think the political parties should work on their ideological laziness, because we don't have political parties with strong ideology. So that's why you see that each time you see somebody is in party A, the next day move to the party B, the next day move to party C, next time move to party A that he left. So we have politicians that are they play politics of convenience. Now, the people that comes to vote and all that, you are the end beneficiary of whatever they do. So now let's assume the ruling party is there in the states. You as a politician party, what do? You start, organizing programs, enlightening the people, empowering the people, so that in the next election they should be able to look at a non-performing ruling party and say, we are not voting for you, we are voting for the other opposition party because they have been empowering us. I think they can empower us before they get to power. That means if they get to power, they are going to do more. So these are the things we are going to be looking at, because the political party as it is now, they only prepare for election after election. As we speak now, they're already talking about 2027. So I call that ideological laziness, because the question you're asking yourself is, all the manifesto you laid down during your campaign, all the promises and everything, I think once you are sworn in, you should be pursuing that first instead of talking about the next election. So that ideological laziness should be discouraged by the political party, and of course they should work towards mobilizing the people to align with them, irrespective whether they are ruling party or not. That's the only way you can unseat a ruling party. APC did that in 2014 and they got the ticket in 2015. They look at the way the PDP were running their government, and they pick holes from what they are not doing well, fuel subsidy, whatever, refinery is not working and all that. And they sold that idea to the people that, look, if we get into power, we are going to reduce fuel price to 50 naira per liter, and we are going to give you refinery and all that. And of course, this is 9 years post that. Fuel price has increased more than before. Refineries are not working. In fact, all of us are celebrating one single refinery after having four that we cannot maintain. So these are the things that opposition party, both at the federal government and the state level, should be telling the people, say, look, these people, are they working the way they're supposed to work? They should be challenging the ruling party. Are you working the way you are going to, you promise to work? Your manifesto 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 10. You have not implemented this, you have not implemented that. That's why the rules political parties should be playing. Not if your party lost election, you go and seek for political appointment with the ruling party and all that. We should have political ideology in this country, and that's the only way our democracy can be strengthened.
James Ugochukwu, thank you for coming to share with us this morning. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome.
Just for the records, James Ugochukwu is the Executive Director, Alliance for Inclusive Development Africa, also called Aid Africa. He's election analyst and good governance advocate. We're taking a break now. When we return, it will be that point where we'll draw the curtain on the show. To stay with us, everyone. All right, we are beginning to wind down on the program. Being quite an interesting morning, but it's not any way more interesting than Nigeria as a country.
Interesting, truly. Nigeria is really very interesting,
right,
because with all of the drama happening everywhere, from people you least expect drama from, it's safe to call Nigeria the most dramatic and interesting country in Africa.
We can also take away the fact that Nigeria is quite a blessed country. All we have to do is get the right attitude on, get everybody to do their part, whether you are in politics, you are in the civic space, I mean, whatever it is that you do that changes people's lives for the better, builds the country one block at a time. Please, let's continue to do all of that. Queen and I and my other colleagues who have been here doing our beats this entire morning, and we'll continue to do that the whole day. We hope you do yours as well.
Thank you. And so from all of us at Global Television, Global Morning this morning, we say have a beautiful morning. See you again tomorrow. Bye for now.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.